Titanfall is the much anticipated first game from Respawn Entertainment, the company that's made up of mostly ex-Infinity Ward employees. The game has had a lot of hype since it was revealed at E3, but does it live up to the hype? The short answer is mostly. Titanfall is extremely fun to play, which is obviously the most important factor in any game, especially a multiplayer first-person shooter. It looks and sounds good, also a huge plus. But its lack of any offline modes and its fairly weak story in its multiplayer campaign mode can be off-putting to those who might want something more substantial, especially in a lore aspect if anyone is interested in the backstory. So, to be clear, Titanfall has absolutely no offline modes. None. Even to do the single player and quick tutorial mode, players need to be connected to the online servers. For console players, this means they need to have a gold membership on Xbox Live, since it is an Xbox exclusive, and PC players must be connected to EA's Origin servers. Anyone looking for a nice single-player campaign as a main selling point should stay far away from Titanfall. Even in the multiplayer campaign, the story is fairly weak, though players can experience it from both sides. In fact, the design of the game essentially forces players to do both sides of the campaign if they want to have all the base Titan chassis available for their Titan loadouts. By completing the campaign on one side, it doesn't matter which, players open up the Strider chassis, a nimble but physically weak chassis. Completing the other side's campaign, which is really just the same maps but playing on the other team, they open up the Ogre chassis, a tougher but extremely slow base model. The exposition in campaign multiplayer is mostly told through audio and some small video that can appear in the top right of the screen. Between matches, audio is heard describing the importance of the next mission as players join and leave the lobbies. There are a few campaign matches with some pre-match and in-game cutscenes, but not many. Mostly it's just a short bit of exposition with the player's view of the inside of the dropship as it comes to let them off into the battlefield. The main problem, however, is that the exposition given out in the actual matches can be lost in the mix of the battle or when players die during those points. While the story isn't especially engrossing, losing out on what little parts of the story there is while waiting to respawn makes it even less so. Also, win or lose on each map does nothing to affect the story either way. The overall multiplayer experience is where Titanfall's design priorities lay, though, and it shows. While some people have often loved to criticize the game before its release as looking like Call of Duty with mechs, not an unfair criticism based on the developers behind the series, the game feels much more than that. The whole feel of Titanfall's multiplayer is fast-paced and frantic. While on foot, players play as pilots, fast and agile avatars that can use their jump packs to double jump and wall run all over the map. The emphasis on wall running is seen throughout the design of the maps, as every surface seems to lend itself to helping pilots get to someplace else in a hurry. What's also nice is that the wall running and map navigation is easy to learn, which is great because of how essential it is for not being killed while just running on the ground. Every player also has Titans to call in. These large, 20-plus foot walking tanks add a different dynamic to the gameplay. Titans are ground-locked. They can't jump or do any of the acrobatics of the pilots, but they can take far more damage and have incredibly powerful weapons at their disposal. The Titans can also dash, giving short bursts of speed when they need it, with each chassis having a set amount of dashes available to it before needing to recharge the ability. These range from 1 to 3 dashes. Titans can also be put into 2 AI-controlled modes. Follow mode keeps the Titan as close to the pilot as it can stay, and guard mode sets the machine to watch a specific area while standing still. Titans in AI mode will also attack and defend themselves as best as the AI can do. Titanfall also ensures that people cannot steal anyone else's Titan. The Titans are DNA locked to their pilot, which means enemies or even teammates cannot jump in and use a Titan called down by somebody else. Since every player gets their own Titan to eventually call in, there isn't any vehicle hoarding like what can happen in the games in the Battlefield series, where players wait to spawn until a vehicle is ready to be used. Calling in a Titan is on a time cooldown. It starts at 4 minutes in the beginning of the match, and then each subsequent Titan takes roughly 2 minutes to call in after the destruction of the previous one. Damaging or killing other players, Titans, or AI-controlled minions can reduce this cooldown, with the most time being reduced for hits and kills against players or their Titans. The beauty of the design, however, is that calling in a Titan is not an automatic win button. Pilots all have anti-Titan weapons to damage the behemoths, and can also jump on the backs of enemy Titans to try and take out the CPU of the machine while rodeoing them. On the flip side, Titans can crush pilots in a single step. Their weapons can often also kill pilots in a single hit. The feeling of balance between the playstyles and abilities is very thought out and welcomed. There was supplementing of the 6-on-6 maximum player size. However, the maps seem well designed with this player count in mind, for the most part. While there are a few maps where one can find themselves far from the action, for the most part it only takes a few seconds to get into the fray. The addition of AI-controlled minions also keeps the feeling that more is going on than the 12-player maximum would let on. It should be noted, though, that minions are not there to replace players. They're there to allow the players to reduce their Titan cooldown, earn some experience, and complete challenges, and to provide flavor more than anything else. The basic human grunts that appear on the map are extremely stupid and very simple to kill. The robotic specters are slightly more challenging and nimble, but on the whole still pose little threat to the players. Note, I said little threat, not no threat. The minions can still kill players if they are already near death. The other main addition to the mix is the idea of burn cards. These collectible trading card games inspired cards offer one life-specific perks to players after they have been unlocked. These can range from more powerful versions of weapons to the ability to instantly call in a Titan without the cooldown timer needing to be run down. Burn cards are earned periodically throughout the game for things like kills, challenge completions, and even winning the match or evacuating from the battlefield if one is on the losing team. Another interesting addition. While Titanfall runs on the aging Source engine from Valve, it has been heavily modified and looks extremely good. It's not the super next-gen looking game that some people were hoping for even this early in the Xbox One's life cycle, but it is very pretty overall. The art design staff at Respawn has put an incredible amount of detail into each of the 15 maps, giving the appearance of a lived-in world for every battleground. Even the player models and Titans have an enormous amount of detail in them, showing the time and effort put into making Titanfall look as good as it can. The sound design is also very good. Weapons sound pretty powerful overall. The ambient chatter from grunts as the battle progresses, the sound of Titans getting into battle, and the music are all very well done. Obviously, the main factor is in how much fun the game is to play. To that end, I've been having an extremely enjoyable time while playing Titanfall, especially with friends. However, the lack of an ability to make completely custom matches might end up being a detriment to those players who might like to have larger matches between teams of friends. There's also a lack of game modes. Attrition is basically team deathmatch. Hardpoint domination is an objective-based hold the majority of areas to score points game mode. Capture the flag, last Titan standing, where everybody starts in a Titan and each round ends when all of one team's Titans are destroyed and there are no respawns. And Pilot Hunter, a variation on attrition where points are only gained towards the team's final score for pilot kills. There's also a variety mode that plays through all the game types. Considering how long the team members of Respawn Entertainment have been making first-person shooters, this seems a little anemic. There are a few other minor annoyances, but nothing that detracts from the game as a whole. While Titanfall is extremely fun to people into fast-paced first-person multiplayer shooters, for anyone looking for an engrossing single-player campaign, it is certainly not the game for them. Take the always online multiplayer into account before purchasing. For those looking for an extremely fun online multiplayer shooter, though, one can easily look to Titanfall as a game to consider.